Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Carol, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Gretta, Kathleen, and of course, the Realm of Beings. I'd like to tell everybody, as this airs, Gretta and the Realm with Kathleen are in Deerfield Beach, Florida, at the New Life Expo, Hilton, Doubletree Hilton in Deerfield Beach. It's on Hillsborough Boulevard. You might want to drop in to see them. And next weekend, they will be in Manhattan at the New Yorker Hotel. And again, you can get tickets for either one of those at www.newlifeexpo.com. I'd like to thank everybody who sent me positive vibes for my knee. I'm doing well, thank you, although I'm not well enough to travel with my co-hosts, but they're out there representing Shifting Impressions, and they're doing a fine job. We're happy to be here on Transformation Network, and we're here every Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. You can catch us on our website, www.realmofbeings.com. You can follow and like us on our Instagram and Facebook accounts. You can pick up episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Transformation Network, and any of your favorite streaming platforms. We're very happy to be here every Friday, as I said. And if you're new to this podcast, thank you for joining us and being part of this experience. These conversations will help you to look at your life and your creation of reality, to see what you're creating, how it shows up, and how to help you gain perspective so you can shift what you're creating to create what you want. So welcome everyone. To our new listeners and viewers, every week Gretta gets a quote from the Realm of Beings, which she shares with us. We will discuss, and later on in the program, the Realm will weigh in and give us more insight into the quote they provided. This week, we're continuing in a relationship type of status with the quote, "Learning to live with another can be challenging. However, you can create it to be a wonderful and endearing relationship." Now, the first thing that pops in most people's heads, I think, is romantic relationships. But as the single person in this podcast, I can tell you that there are other relationships that are just as significant and that you can create the same situation to make it either a difficult situation, as I did a couple of weeks ago, or an easy situation. So it doesn't have to be just romantic relationships. It can be any type of relationships. Do you agree with that, ladies?
Yes, I do. I'm glad you mentioned that, Carol, because it still deals with knowing yourself first. You don't know yourself. If you can't even get along with your dog, so it doesn't even really matter if you don't know yourself, or your cat, for that matter. So I totally agree with that, and I've learned in my short years on this planet that it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of, well, I could say that it wasn't until later on in my lifetime that I've learned that I create the challenges, I create the relationships and how I want to interact with people. But prior to that, I was a completely different person. You wouldn't even know I was the same person sitting here looking like, you see that little angelic halo coming over?
Your halo is showing. It's shining.
Oh, my hello was showing because I had a hello. Okay, I didn't have a halo. I had definitely a hello, and it was uh sometimes, you think everyone's doing things to you, or you're judging, and you're going, oh wow, okay, I'm not going to get along with that person. I'm not going to get along with that person. And I realized that one of the things that I lacked was a lot of patience. But now that I know, I'm looking at it now through a different lens. It's patience with other people, but it's me that lack patience with myself. So
Exactly.
that's a new thing that just popped into my little head. Is that when I think about it, because everything is centered around my thoughts and my emotions and how I want to interact with the people.
Mhm.
What you're creating, you're attracting the support for that.
Yeah, I think that existence protocol that we always talk about on this podcast is create, support, support, create. And when you look at that, then you want to look at what are you creating? What are you taking ownership of in the relationship, regardless if it might be with your parents, but I know this month has been centered around a significant other. That's what we've been basically talking about this month. Like we did last week, I think, was how to find a mate. So now the thing becomes how do you live with the mate that you found? You know, that's the issue. Yeah,
And still love yourself unconditionally.
absolutely, absolutely. Because sometimes you can be in a relationship and you look and you say, I didn't know that she or he was like that. It's like you get together and then all of a sudden everything hangs out. We're trying to be polite in the beginning and, oh, we're this and we're that. And, oh, you're sweet, you're gentle, you're kind, until you got an argument going after you've decided to be together.
Or you have
Then
to
you got
share
a
for
real
the
then
bathroom.
then you got a spitter like in Jurassic Park. Imagine,
Well,
where did
they
that come
say
from?
like people start relationships with rose-colored glasses on, and there's literally chemicals in the brain that prove that in the beginning, love is great because it is new and everybody's wonderful. And as time goes on, those chemicals start to settle down, the rose-colored glasses come off, and now you got a guy that won't put the seat down on the toilet. So you
Oh,
start,
now it's like
now you're
peekaboo. I
going
see
into
you.
day-to-day
Peekaboo,
realities. So
peekaboo.
Or you're married to a wife who constantly nags. You didn't know that she was doing
I
that.
plead the fifth. I plead the fifth on that one. I have been told that I did that, and I have been told that in order to support me because it made me happy to complain, that they were happy to complain because I helped them go to sleep at night because they learned to drown me out and take all the stress and strain of the day and literally fall asleep like this. Oh, and I never understood why that was until much, much later on. But relationships evolve, and we have to remember that well, actually, you know what? I don't know, Greta, if we say we're not perfect, because aren't we teaching that we're creating that we are perfect just the way we are?
Well, see, there's that duality I think you're referring to, Kathy, because we talk about what's up here is the personality. It's the personalities that we're dealing with, and they help us to create very interesting scenarios or realities. But the underlying part is that each one of us is the force. which created all of existence. But see, within this humanoid experience, we don't remember that. So we think of ourselves as being totally human. Some people believe in spirit, some people believe in soul, but basically we're humans. And we have a human framework. And that framework was established when we were children because we chose our parents. You see, so I was just talking to a gentleman today, and he and I were talking about how, as adults, we are playing out some of the challenges that we were given when we were children, or some of those lessons that were not necessarily high vibrational. So when we're coming into a relationship with a significant other, sometimes we become so comfortable with that person that the old us, the old things that we were taught when we were children, start to surface. And see, that means then that we have to be aware of what we're creating and what we're saying.
And if you want to experience it or not.
Right.
Because if you loop into relationships like, they last and then they're gone, they last and then they're gone, because I mean, you keep choosing the same kind of person with the same kind of energy, and you're going to keep getting the same result. But even within a relationship that's lasting for many, many years, you still have to hold on to who you are. And my grandmother said, you always keep a little girl inside of you, and then you'll never get old. That was just to me another way of saying what I'm saying. You have to focus on creating joy for yourself and making sure that you are taking care of yourself. If that person doesn't want to take you to dinner because they're cheap behind or whatever, if they want to hold you back, the only person that can hold you back from getting a job or a career or doing what you want to do is you. And to me, you have to create the relationship and create the reality that you can be you and do you without sacrificing or going into saviorhood or any of those other S words that we don't like to talk about or we have discussed on this show, in order to remain true to yourself and finding out who yourself is. Are you a submissive kind of woman, or are you a bold kind of woman? And, do you want to remain a submissive? I've never been submissive. So that's my personality.
Really,
my mother
Kathy?
wasn't.
How
Well,
surprising.
but Carol, my mother wasn't. Ramona, my mother was not submissive, but I've had some aunts that were, and the reality that they created with their significant other was extremely challenging for them, because you could see when I'm looking at it now, they practice not loving themselves. So if you
Right.
want to be
And that's
submissive,
the
if
main
that's loving
point.
you, then okay, I can't say anything about it.
I want
Really
to say too, Kathy, is that not only what you just stated here, not only applies to women, but also applies to men. I've known men to be in some very challenging relationships with their female significant other or their same-sex significant other. you know, um, that there's a lot of trust you have to have in that person. But see, you can't have trust in that person until you have trust in you. Trust in
right.
you. That's the thing. I tell people with that protocol I was talking about earlier, which is create, support, support, create. I tell them, I said, if you, let's say significant other A, if significant other A really, truly loves and has unconditional love for self, then significant other B must support that. Has to support it. That's the way this energy works. We had a whole month talking about energy, and I don't think people realize how important it is because energy creates your realities. That's the bottom line of that. And see, and then the other part about this is because it's energy driven, you're dealing with frequencies. So if you're at a certain frequency, that is the type of person that you're going to bring to yourself. So if you're in a frequency that supports you in being in low self-esteem, not caring for yourself, living in lack, then that's the type of person you're going to bring to yourself. Because that's the support. You're
Right.
going to have to be given support inside that relationship, being low self-esteem, don't like myself, don't care about myself, don't think I'm handsome or beautiful. I don't trust myself. I feel that I've never been anything in my life, and I've been taught I'm not going to be anything in my life. So therefore, when you're looking for a significant other, you're going to bring that same person to you.
You know what? And I want to piggyback on what you just said, because I've known people where the first person they were with is the person that you described, low self-esteem, all of this. Then all of a sudden, they're no longer that energy, they leave that person. But the next person that they marry or get involved in, complete opposite. And the person interacts with that person on a completely different level. You don't see the abuse that took place before. You don't see any of that. And then people go, well, he certainly treats that she certainly treats that guy better. He certainly treats her better than he did the first wife or whatever. Gee, what's so special about her? It describes what you're talking about. It's how that person creates to be treated. That person's not going to be abused because they're practicing loving themselves. That's what came to me when you said that.
When I was in a class when I was studying clinical psychology, and I remember this. We would go around and talk about different things. And this particular woman, she was already working as a social worker in with an agency. And she shared with us her experiences that she had with this one particular client. And the client was being physically abused, emotionally abused, and so forth. So what did I chime in? I raised my hand and I said, well, that's because she doesn't love herself. But you know what? My professor knocked me down like crazy. Said, oh no, and then went with all this other stuff, of, well, the environment that she's coming from, went through all that stuff. They did not realize, and people don't realize. I hate to be on a soap opera box, but I guess I got to get on it because it's imperative that you love yourself. That is so important. And there have been some people that have told me that that's being selfish. And I said, hecky, no, that's not being selfish. For you to care about yourself and to appreciate yourself, that when I've been in abusive relationships. I'm going to share with the audience today. I mean, I've been in some severe abusive relationships in which I had to fight for my life. That is the only reason why I'm here today to even talk to you. But having gone through that experience, I know that I went through that because of lack of love of me. Lack of love of me. And that is something that I have to practice every day, loving myself. Because when you've been taught not to love yourself, like I was in my childhood, then that's a go-to because it's been pounded in you all this time It's been pounded in you. This is who you are. No, you can't do this. No, you're not able to do this. No, you're not capable of doing this. Over
Or
and over and
or
over.
you're
And you
not
begin to
worthy of having this, or you're not
right. And you begin to
deserving
believe
of.
the stuff.
Yeah.
You begin to believe it. You
But you
know,
You know,
create to hear it. You create to hear it. And
absolutely.
they're supporting you in it.
Absolutely.
and it
Thank you,
all comes
Kathy.
from the lesson of learning to love yourself. And I have to tell you that now that I know about creation and reality, I can look back on my failed relationships and realize my major problem in every relationship romantically that I had was that I was hoping I would meet someone who would love me enough to make up for the fact that I didn't love myself. And now I understand that's impossible. And if anyone thinks that's selfish, how can anyone love you if you don't love you? If you don't think you deserve love, why would anyone else think you deserve it? And it's when you're taught that at a young age, it's very difficult to understand that you're creating it all, but you're the only one that can uncreate it and create what you want. That's what we're talking about. Shift your perspective. Create,
Absolutely.
create
Because
the relationship you want.
absolutely. Absolutely. But it has to start with you.
Yes.
Because I think what all three of us are talking about, that we have a tendency as human beings, if something goes wrong in a relationship, we want to say that it's the other person.
Yeah.
You know, that I mean, that's a go-to. You did that. You know, you created that fiasco, you know. Um, and my mother doesn't like you, you know, or you're not wanted in my family, or what, you know, whatever they're saying to you.
But
That
Greta,
you created it.
yeah.
You created the whole doggone experience. And people don't realize that the first person you need to love in this life experiences, who you need to fall in love with, and I mean literally fall in love with, is yourself.
Self.
But Greta, at the same time, I think it should be stressed that, you know, you cannot change other people in a
Right.
Right.
they have to want to change themselves. So when you're in a relationship with a significant other, you have to also keep that up here, that that is who this person is. If you're going to love them unconditionally as you love yourself unconditionally, then those, it is what it is. You either want to tolerate it or change yourself or change the relationship. That's basically the bottom line. And if it's abuse, if you find it doesn't bring you joy, if it's abusive, and by abusive it means when you stop, I'm not loving myself today, or I'm feeling sad today. See, I look at it through a whole different lens too, you know, and
Mhm.
it's like watching my parents, why are they staying together? Other people are like, they should divorce, they should this. They've been together from the day they said I do to the day they died, okay? But I don't know how much joy was there, you know?
Mhm.
Um, it's like, well, we're married, so we're stuck. And I don't know if that's how they felt. I cannot speak for them. I can only speak as a child watching my mother try to change my father and my father trying to change my mother. It didn't work. So my lesson in observing that was to um, find a mate that was not going to um, do some of those things. However, some of them you kind of choose, like your father, somebody, you choose what you're comfortable with also. But then you realize you can't change that person, but you still love that person unconditionally. And I think that's part of the challenge with people that are in relationships. You know, it's like, I guess you call that duality again. But you can't stop that person from doing what they're doing. They have to want to. It's how you react to what they're doing. Is it taking away from you what that when they're doing that? And if you don't mind them taking, well, no one can take anything from you. what I'm saying is, if you can accept
Tolerate.
that. Now, I don't want to say tolerate, accept it. Because when you tolerate something, that's, to me, that's abusing me. I'm going to tolerate. I don't want to tolerate it. I put it to you this way, Carol, I'm too daggone old to tolerate anything. That when people reach a certain age, we stop tolerating. We just speak what we got to say and be done with it. You know, tolerating is for younger folks. No, accepting it. To me, I just see it accepting it. You either accept it or you don't. And you either speak up about it and say, I don't like this. And I'm not going to accept that.
And it may not be something that you realize right away. And I'm talking on a personal level here, where I understood someone's flaws and accepted him with those flaws, with that understanding that this was part of who he was. And after so many years, I literally just got tired of it. That's why I used the word tolerate. It was more of, I'm tired of dealing with this situation, and I can't change him, but I can change myself. I can get up and leave. And that's what I did. So.
And it's okay.
We always have our control of ourselves. And if
that's
we remember that,
that's it. That's
never
it.
stop.
But you know, if you're in a relationship that you really don't want to leave and it's challenging,
there you go. That's another one.
Then what I can say to that is go back and love yourself. I want to give this, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but I'd like to take the time and tell it again. This one woman, young woman, called me. This must have been about 30 years ago, 35 years ago or something, when I first started doing the energy work. And so she called me and I asked her, why are you calling me? How can I help you? And she said to me, I want to move into my own apartment. I said, okay. She said, right now I'm living with my parents. And my father, she referred to him as her father. He was actually her stepfather because when the father left, when the children, there were four children, and the father left when when they were very young. So this man stepped up to the plate, to provide shelter and take care of the children with his new wife. So, but he was emotionally abusive. He was abusive to the children. He was abusive to her, but she couldn't leave. The mother couldn't leave because she felt she could not support the four children on her own. So she stayed. Okay. Now let's segue forward. The children are this woman is grown. I think she might have been the oldest child. She was grown. She told me every day that man came home from work that he had to verbally abuse them. He didn't miss a beat. So she really, that was one of the reasons why she wanted to get out, because he was so abusive. Now, at that time, I did not have the the 7 line, we love ourselves unconditionally affirmation. I only had, I love myself. That was it. I love myself. I told her, start saying that. She started saying it and saying it and saying it. I don't even know how, but she was saying it with intense energy. Every day she said that. The second week I talked to her, still abusive. The third week I talked to her, she said, Greta, you're not going to believe this. I said, I'll believe it. What happened? She said, he came home and was so kind to me, but yet abused my mother and my brothers, and my siblings as usual. I said, well, look what you created. And she didn't change her dad now, because he was still doing the same thing. But she changed what he was doing with her. and how he was treating her because she changed herself. The fourth week, and she only stayed with me 4 weeks. The fourth week, she told me, Greta, Dad has gone out with me to help me find my apartment. He paid my security deposit and my first month's rent and bought me furniture. And that was done only by her changing herself, not changing him, because he was still the same interesting person that he was all along. But he changed how he dealt with her, how he
Well, he had to
interacted with
support
her.
her where she was at, and she changed loving herself, and he had to
Absolutely.
support that.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to ask our listeners and viewers to stay with us. When we return, the realm will be back with us to weigh in on this quote they've given us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We are shifting impressions, conversations with the realm of beings here on Transformation Network. We have reached that portion of the show where the realm will come through and give us more insight on the quote that they've shared with Greta this week. Realm, may we wish you a happy welcome and a happy Friday. How are you?
All of us are doing well, thank you. We appreciate you inquiring about us. It makes us feel wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, this quote.
Well, there's love going all around, of course.
Absolutely.
The quote is learning
unconditional love
another.
at that. Can you read the quote for us
Yes,
again,
true.
Carol?
Yes, absolutely, Realm. Learning to live with another can be challenging. However, you can create it to be a wonderful and enduring relationship.
Well, the first thing we want to talk about is that all of you guys out there and gals are human. So what came with being human? One of the things that came is that wanting to be paired with another in some way or another. Oh, I like that. Okay. So
Sounds like song lyrics.
it is.
Sounds
I
like
was
Noah's
really.
Ark to me.
What was it, Kathleen?
That sounds like Noah's Ark to me.
Nah, that's too crowded.
No, two
Noah's
by two,
Ark.
2x2, 2x2.
I don't understand that. What does that mean,
Well,
Kathleen?
you said paired, and I saw Noah's Ark. Everybody's paired, two
Oh,
animals, male and female.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. But you know, in this existence of being humanoid, the pairing can come in so many ways, so many different ways. It's you know, it's just set up that way. Uh, Accepting of, without going into uh the five sexes of individuals. I'm not going to deal with that. But so many people are so engrossed into that there are two sexes when there are more than that once you open up and see and understand. Because that understanding is acceptance in unconditional love of however a person defines how they wish to present themselves. They are still divine beings. Every last human here is a divine being. Sometimes we've noticed that you choose not to act like that. But that's okay too, because what are you doing? When you don't, when you're getting into an act of lack of love, low self-esteem, fear, then you're going to be attracting a wonderful person that's similar to you because you have frequencies and vibrational rate. You know, when you play the music, you say 800 hertz is this, 452 hertz is this, 973 hertz is this. We get into all that hertz stuff. But what you don't realize is that you're carrying a frequency inside of you. Just like you hear that music, or you hear a sound, or you do a singing bowl, and you hear all the frequencies and the vibrations, so are you vibrating and giving off frequencies. So the thing becomes when you want to start to look for a significant other, you want to bear in mind, what do you want to experience? And the podcast, if I remember correctly, of which I do, dealt with how to find a mate. And in that, we discussed, and all of us discussed, that write down what it is you want to experience with the other person. Now, that was for trying to find somebody. So now what do you do when you already have somebody? You're still dealing with energy. You're still dealing with frequencies and vibratory rates. So what you want to do is you want to vibe high, not low. Vibe high, not low. Because when you vibe high, the other person, I don't care what the other person is like. I don't care if they come home and stand on their heads and twirl for 24 hours. It's important for you as the other significant other to vibe high. That means then that the other person, your mate, has to support you. Remember, and thank you, ladies, for mentioning that in this podcast. It's create, support, support, create. That goes on throughout the entire universe and outside of the universe. That is the existence protocol. Create, support, support, create. So when you're vibing high, the other person must vibe with you. They could be the meanest person you've ever seen. They could be hell on wheels. But when you vibe and high, they got to vibe with you, you see. Now, they might not vibe that way with everybody else, but they're going to vibe that way for you because that's where you're at. That's where you're at. You want to vibe high. It's just like somebody comes out and says, you're at a dance party and they're playing this really good music that's gets you going. So you're sitting in your chair, but somebody comes over and says, would you like to dance? And you're a dancer, so what are you going to do? You're going to get up with all the energy that you have and step out on that dance floor and wiggle as well as you can, regardless of what age you are. And you're going to enjoy it. So you're in that relationship right there on the dance floor. What are you doing? In order to dance with that person who's out there really getting down, you've got to get down with them. In fact, you're going to feel like you want to get down with them, because you're picking up their energy just like they are picking up your energy. So therefore, you're just, woo, you're just getting down to the nitty gritty. Enjoy.
You know what, realm just came to my mind, because I've been, I watched a lot of the social media just to keep my, see what's going on. And even though everything is happening that in this country that people do not like because of certain personalities, it's been a joy to watch a lot of people that there's a dance called Boots on the Ground, and just watching African American people just say, you know what, we're going to vibe high, and they've got their cowboy boots and their hats and their fans, and it's like nothing's going to steal their joy. They're vibing high, and
Absolutely.
it's wonderful to
Absolutely.
watch that.
But it's not just African American people.
Oh, I know.
It's all kinds of people have decided that they're vibing high.
They're going to vibe high.
You see, because it can't be just one group vibing. If you're talking about vibing, it's got to be a community of a spiritual community of vibing. And that's what a relationship is with another significant other. It's the building of a spiritual relationship in peace, in joy, in unconditional love, in acceptance. This is how this is. That's where you want to be. And you can't be there. The relationship cannot be there until both of you are there.
Yep.
But if only one of you can be there, then let it be you. So that you will receive the joy, you will receive the love instead of the black eye, or instead of the insults. You don't need that. It's not necessary, other than to test your will and your skill in being in a state of self-love. Now, if you want to challenge yourselves, then I can see that. But who would want to go through that? Once you learn yourself, when I say who would want to go through that, that's not knocking anybody who wants to, you see. because some people choose that. They choose the experience of self-punishment.
Right.
And degradation.
Right.
They choose that experience. So therefore, that's okay. But the thing is, do you really want to do it?
You can always change your reality, change your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Change your
And
reality.
we have spoken to the audience about how to change their thoughts by using QDRs, quick displace replays. We've been teaching that for I don't know how long, for months now. Please check out some of the previous podcasts because we talk about that. We talk about I am experiencing releasing all emotions and thoughts that support me in creating and maintaining being abused by my significant other. I love myself unconditionally. Note inside that sentence has something very important. It says thoughts and emotions, because it's your thoughts that get you started in your experience and gets you started, but it's the emotions that drive it through. So if
it's like they work in tandem.
You've accepted not to love self, then what you're going to be doing for that next person, you're going to be driving in yourself the feelings of disgust about self. Because remember, you've got to drive the emotion. And then the other person is going to say, but at the unconscious level, oh, I must support you that way. So then they're going to give you what you want, you see. And if some people say, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, don't tell us that you don't want it when we're watching you do it. And we're watching you have it. Some people say, we hear it all the time, when you and Gretta, Kathleen, are talking to people and facilitating for them through your energy work. We hear that because we're present. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. They're trying to wash over their mess.
Rather than face it.
We don't need to wash over anything. We just need to say that this experience that I have now, I do not want it anymore, even if you can't do the QDR. There's a simple sentence, is I love myself. Gretta had that. She didn't have the long thing to deal with. It was just one. I love myself, plain and simple. Everybody can remember that basically. I love myself. And if you say it to yourself enough, you're going to believe it. It's just like when the person told you you were no good and kept telling you you're no good and you're no good and you're no good. After they kept on telling you over and over and over again, what happens? You believe it.
And you start saying it to yourself.
Good. Right. Yep. So this time, let's not practice low vibrational expressions, but let us practice a high vibrational expression, which is extremely simple. I love myself. And myself, I think in English, is one word. So what is it? It's a 3-word mantra. I love myself. That is so important. Now, do you ladies have any other questions?
Well, I was just going to bring in a point that Gretta tells us often to our listeners and viewers. We talk about the thoughts as well as the emotions, and we also need to be careful what those thoughts are. She says, be careful what you think. These people who, if you say to them, you're not loving yourself, and they say, oh, that's not true. I totally love myself. Well, obviously, if you did love yourself, your unconscious would be showing you that. So on some level, they are thinking thoughts that are not loving of self. So you want to be careful what you think.
Absolutely, Carol. Thank
Words
you.
have lots of power.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reason why they have lots of power, Carol, is because they are forms of energy. Everything is energy in this reality. There is nothing that is not energy.
But you know what, Realm? Just to piggyback on that, and slightly, I don't know if it's a little slightly off base there, but when you try to tell people you don't love yourself unconditionally, like Carol, you're going to get that reaction. What I have learned is that people knew I was on the walker for 6 years. I went to the gym I go to. And when they say, I can't believe you don't need that anymore. I can't believe you're walking so well. How are you doing that? Well, I'm practicing loving myself. When I learned that I wasn't loving myself and that my thoughts and emotions were creating for me to keep experiencing all of that, I had to get rid of it. They learn more by watching you. Like when you walk in, like, it's, you know what I mean? It's like they go, oh, wow, I can't believe that you were doing that.
Like you're learning by example.
Exactly. So in other words, then they go, oh, maybe I need to take another look at that. So, more and more people asking me about the card and, about the podcast because they know where I was. But just to piggyback on what the realm is saying, and you were saying, Carol, and Greta was saying, you change your thoughts, you change your reality. And only you can change you. And only you can choose to create the significant other that you want to be with, that you want to stay with, because you cannot change that person. You just have to accept and love yourself unconditionally so you can love that person unconditionally.
Absolutely. One thing,
and
though,
they can love you unconditionally.
Excuse me, Carol, but one thing we want to add to this before we end, and that is this. When you have, not only do you want to change yourself internally, you want to start loving yourself. The other part to this is, if the person who's significant to you is treating you in a nasty way, or they're doing something that you just think is just terrible, start to change how you see them. Because if you see them as being abusive,
they're going to be
and
that.
You continue that, what are you doing? Remember, everything is energy. So therefore, you are giving more and more and more energy to the very thing that you don't want to experience.
There you go.
Exactly.
So you've got to also not only love yourself, but to change how you see the other individual. That's just as important.
Maybe we could talk about that next week, Realm, because that's another challenge.
Yeah, it is. All right, viewers, I want to just remind everybody for this weekend, if you're in South Florida, go see Greta, the Realm, and Kathleen at the Doubletree Hilton in Deerfield Beach on Hillsborough Boulevard, the New Life Expo. And next weekend, they will be there in New York at the New Life Expo. I want to thank Greta. I want to thank the Realm. I want to thank Kathleen and Transformation Network for hosting us. And mostly, we want to thank you, our listeners and viewers. Keep shifting your impression to create what you want. Until we create each other again, have a wonderful week.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with the realm and me, Greta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at transformationtalkradio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.